Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton spoke to a full crowd at the Lincoln High School gymnasium near downtown Des Moines, Iowa, Sunday night.
I am a better candidate, and thanks to you, I will be a better president, and I want you to know that.
Clinton sympathized with students who had high amounts of student loans and compared the cost of a college education 10 years ago to the cost today.
Making sure the students are able to refinance their student loans and student debt, really making it a process where students get involved in their education and work. And so I think her college compact plan is very strong.
And I've got a plan for debt-free tuition. If you go to my website, you can read about it. I think it's a better way to actually get the cost down and make sure everybody who needs help gets it, to go to college and graduate. But we got to deal with the debt that already exists. How many of you have or have had student debt? Well, pretty big numbers. So God, that's why I got my hands up.
Thomas Schroeder, a former Marine and a supporter of Clinton, says her experience with compromise is what really sets her apart as a viable candidate.
I just think Hillary has a better chance of compromise. You know, it's not a bad word, compromise. You got to work across the aisle on that, and the other side just thinks it's their way or the highway, and I just can't support something like that, you know.
Clinton finished off her rally with a list of promises she will fight for when she takes office. I'm Kayla Morgan reporting for Northwest Student Media.
Good evening from Iowa. We currently have some breaking news from the media center that we didn't have before the break.
When we were looking at the Republican results, we saw Ted Cruz pull through over Donald Trump, a surprising win for the Republican candidate.
You know, and we were really not expecting that either. After seeing Trump's results, polls before the Iowa caucus, who would have thought?
Yeah, most people didn't think that Ted Cruz even had a chance here. If anything, they thought that he would be one of those candidates that would be falling far below everyone else.
Yeah, and we are currently still getting results for Clinton and Sanders. We've got Clinton at 49.9%. We've got Sanders at 49.6%. That is such a close race right now.
It's definitely close, and especially when you look at the supporters that they have, it's going to be interesting to see, is someone going to move over? How are we going to determine this winner? I would like to see how this ends.
So a little bit of breaking news that has happened before we came back to you all is O'Malley. He's dropped out.
Martin O'Malley, yeah, he was a Democratic candidate. Things just didn't go well for him. We actually had the opportunity to speak with him 2 nights before. He said he was confident that his supporters would pull through for him, and he was actually, his viability was questioned multiple times, even nationally, and he did not let it faze him. You know, he was confident, but things just did not go well for him at this caucus event.
It seems like everybody that we went out into the field for, it's no longer in the race. So another one that dropped out was Mike Huckabee.
Right. Mike Huckabee, another person who had strong support, but the media was not there for him. He said his greatest downfall would be the media, and I think he was completely right.
Well, and he explained it, that the more helium you put into a balloon, the higher it goes. And he explained that, you know, with the media, we didn't put in very much, and so he stayed pretty low in those numbers.
Yeah, as far as Republican candidate goes, we talked about Cruz slightly, didn't expect the win, but Trump was the one mainly being covered here. Trump, Rubio. It was a 3-man race for a while there, but things didn't go for him either. He did have a nice 3rd place finish, but Cruz was the overall surprise.
He was. And so we will keep you up to date with this Democratic race right now. Again, we've got Clinton at 49.9%. We've got Sanders at 49.6%. Keep up with our hashtag at #NWCaucus for those latest results. That's all from Iowa. We are wrapping it up here tonight, and we will be back in Maryville tomorrow. Reporting, I'm Jacob Wood.
And I'm Katie Brown.
Back to you guys in Maryville.
Hi, I'm Katie Pattison, and you're watching Bearcat Abroad. Here's a story of a Midwestern girl who got the opportunity to travel 4,806 miles to Barcelona, Spain, just so she could hang out with her best friend for 2 weeks. So last week I gave you a broad bike tour of the Montjuic Hill and gave you some awesome footage from attractions that we went and stopped at. You know you thought it was awesome, don't even lie. This week I take you to the other side of the city center and I narrow it down even more. I take you to where my friend Lily lives, which is called Cruzara, and it's just a neighborhood within Barcelona. She discusses some interesting facts about it and like why each neighborhood has its very own like festival, which was kind of weird, kind of awesome all at the same time. Let's take a look.
Started out very, very small, and there was just all of these little neighborhoods or villages, and as Barcelona grew, they all just kind of like grew together. So now they call them the barrios, the neighborhoods. And so this neighborhood is Gracia, which is a more like family friendly, it's more of like a relatable place of living. Like everybody likes to come here because it's more like family oriented, and there's just a lot of houses here, and it's not a lot of big business. But as we go further into Barcelona, you'll see it's like there's bigger buildings in other places. It's much newer. This part is a very old part of town, but there's a lot of like little plazas and little places, and we have a lot of festivals. And each neighborhood has their own like festivals and themes. And each neighborhood has their own dragon. So the dragon of Barcelona is like this big, fat dragon that like takes 2 people to carry, and they use it for like cortafolks, or it's like their symbol of the neighborhood.
Wait, why dragons?
I'm not sure.
So we tried to figure out what the whole dragon thing was, looked on the internet, couldn't find anything. We even called Juan, whose Catalan has lived there his whole life. He doesn't know. So Lily and I just said, forget it, let's just keep walking. And she was telling me about how each building is slightly colored differently based on like the neighborhood that they're in. Had no idea that's what that meant, just thought Spain was a very colorful country. We started walking around these narrow like streets, which was so cool. And we came across this like plaza that had this flea market going on, and I just thought it was kind of out of place. I don't know if it was the old buildings or the Gothic church that was next to it, but it was really cool. Let's check it out. I'm so happy we randomly came across this plaza because one, that Gothic church and those old buildings just make the rubbish you normally find at most flea markets so much more authentic. Because let's be real, most vendors just pour all of their stuff onto a cloth in front of them, and then you have to search for those really hidden gems. However, you do come across those, and for me, that's classic rock records and vintage cameras. And of course, this guy had a really nice selection, and I just had to walk away before I bought something. But let's be honest, it was a really small market, and I'm a production kid, and it was just bound to happen. Also, I hate getting typical souvenirs for myself, and being an odd person, I need an odd souvenir, i.e. a vintage Kodak camera. So after buying this sweet vintage camo, which I found out actually still works, which is a total bonus, Lily and I proceeded to go to the coast where we were gonna get some food. She took me to this huge food market, which is like a mile long, and it has vendors and bars. It even has a culinary school, which tourists can go and learn lessons on how to cook a popular Catalan dish, which I didn't have the time for, and Juan was just gonna make us food anyways. But it was like the best place to people watch. The first mention of La Boqueria dates back to as early as 1217. It was first known as a traveling market, but in the early 1700s it became stationary next to La Rumba for its large numbers of local inhabitants. Today it is still a place that congregates all of the phases in the food chain, from the producers, harvesters, and butchers, who provide the food to individuals and professional clients who wander through the magnificent characteristic maze of all the vendors. Well, that's all the time I have this week. Make sure to tune in next week where either I take you to a church that is still under construction and it started in the late 1800s and it's not even close to being done yet, or I take you to a really colorful park that overlooks Barcelona. You'll just have to see which one I pick. Now go watch Freshman Year where you can 1, watch me again, and 2, it's produced by Moose and he's awesome. I'll see you next time.
For those of you that don't know what shed hunting is going out and finding these deer's antlers every single year when they drop them. A deer will drop their antlers every year and regrow them in the summertime. So they tend to drop them, you know, February, March, or so. That's always a good time. It's starting to get warm out, so it's not bad to go out and walk around in the woods and stuff like that. So every year the deer will drop their antlers, and it's a really important part of scouting for deer season is going out and finding their antlers. It can tell you a lot about the deer's patterns, where they go, where they've been, and stuff like that. So shed hunting is definitely a good way to get outdoors with your friends and family, and just an awesome time to be in the woods.
Deer drop these antlers everywhere, but a good place where we were finding them on this certain property was along fence lines, because this property is surrounded completely by a fence, and the deer are coming on the from the neighbor's properties, jumping over the fence, and when their front legs hit the ground, it jars their body and makes it so their antlers fall off sometimes. So fence lines are always a good place to check. Other places that are good are like real thick bedding areas, or travel corridors where deer are traveling a lot to go from bedding to food, because during those late winter months, those deer are always usually going from bedding to food, and where they're spending most of their time. Once the antlers are ready to fall off, I mean, just every little bit of knocking them on a tree branch or just that little bit of jarring will make them fall off, and you can find them in many different places.